Front and center, all big. She can see the council.
She can see
Oh yeah, she can see you right there. You're right there. Where you at again? North Carolina?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
On vacation, which she calls training.
Yeah, but this trip, I don't know that I'll ever travel again.
Oh, you had problems with your luggage, right?
Yeah, we got the luggage.
Awesome.
Only to have the city credit card rejected at every turn.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Isn't that nice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're supposed to, Vicky said you're supposed to notify the bank that you're traveling before you start traveling.
Apparently, we're also supposed to make our payments and things, but I think we missed that too somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, we got it squared away.
category.
Hey. No, she's on med leave, I believe. Hey, Vicky, is there like a maximum purchase limit you can use your bank as a credit card for? Do you know what it is? I got one. I tried to 6,000 on the card. Decline over your daily limit. What? Yeah. No, actually 25 would be better. That's our mark before we got to do special stuff.
How you doing, young man?
How are you doing, Billy? Are you going to be here tomorrow night? Yeah. We got 5 people at RSVP, so, and it's going to be good. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time on that.
I totally want to see it, but tomorrow is my son's first football game.
Oh, we're going to let them shoot our sim guns. Yeah, we're up tomorrow night. It's going to be awesome. Tell them to come. You can still come. Tell them to come. They can still just. Some people said they don't even want to go the whole thing. They just want to do certain things. Yeah, right. Yours a hard standard to break. Hey, there's a lot of background noise, Sylvia.
That's what I was telling you.
Can you mute it? Well, it's us. Can you try muting your mic and not talking a second? I know it's going to be hard.
I keep muting it right after I talk.
Oh,
That's just feedback.
okay. See, now there's no feedback when she mutes it. Okay, yeah, I guess if you can mute it when you're not talking, awesome. And then if we get tired, if council, you want me to mute her, I'll do that for you. I'm in so much trouble when she gets back. I can't hear you. You're muted.
It's probably a good thing.
We have a director's meeting tomorrow, and I think there's some purchases you need signed.
Y'all having fun now? When she gets back?
Oh, look, she'll always stay on the screen. You see that?
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I did. She's a window speaker.
I can't see Vicky. Can you move the camera a little bit?
See me.
A little more. They had it set perfectly earlier. Right there.
her down here since she'll always be right here. This is that's old. All that's old. This stuff is brand new. This is the first thing. That's yours? Yeah, this is brand new.
O'clock, call to order the regular meeting of the City Council here in Ransom Pass, Texas, here at 600 West Cleveland Boulevard on the 15th of September at 7 p.m. Please all rise for invocation. Lord, I'd like to give thanks for this beautiful evening, this beautiful day. Special thanks to all our police department, fire department for the job they did throughout the weekend, helping everybody out. A special blessing to all our children that are enjoying their school days and all the homework they have on Mondays. Also, Lord, a special blessing to all those that aren't feeling too well. Please look over them and their caregivers. Watch over us and help guide us tonight to make the proper decision for this community. Thank you, amen.
Amen.
Our Father, we're praying. I was thinking I was in church again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would that be a bad idea?
Yeah, I was like, so used to doing it at Mass. See how many of y'all started sweating. This brings us to item number 3, the consent agenda. All of the following consent agendas are considered to be routine by the City Council will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests. If the discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We have items A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This will bring us to item number 4, which is a proclamation for Fire Safety Week of October 5th through the 11th of 2014. The proclamation so reads as, whereas the City of Ransom Pass is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all of those living and visiting Ransom Pass, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes of the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,300 people in the United States in 2012, according to the National Fire Protection Association. The fire departments of the United States responded to over 365,000 home fires, whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. Whereas 3 out of 5 of the fire deaths result from fires in properties without working smoke alarms. Whereas 1/5 of all homes with smoke alarms, none were working. Also, whereas the smoke alarm should have been operated but did not do so, it was usually because batteries were missing, disconnected, or dead. Whereas Aransas Pass residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room outside each separate sleeping area and of every level of the home. Whereas Aransas Pass residents should install smoke alarms and alert devices that meet the needs of people who are deaf and hard of hearing. Whereas Aransas Pass, who have planned and practiced home fire escape plan and more prepared, and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas Aransas Pass first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention, protection, and education. Whereas Aransas Pass are responsive to the public education measures and are able to take proposal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. Whereas 2014 Fire Prevention Week theme, Working Smoke Alarms Save Lives. Test years every month effectively serves to remind us that we need to work in smoke alarms to give us the time to get out safely. Therefore, I, Adon Chapo, Mayor of Aransas Pass, do hereby proclaim October 5th through the 11th, 2014, as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city, and I urge all people of Aransas Pass to test their smoke alarms at least every month by pushing the test button, and to support many public safety activities and efforts of the Aransas Pass Fire Emergency Services during the Fire Prevention Week of 2014. I'd like to give this to Mr. Fire Chief Ricky Kilgore real quick. His proclamation. Also, to add too, not only for test the ones at home, but also in your trailers. I have mine going off in the backyard, didn't know what it was. The battery's about to go out. But also check your carbon monoxide alarms also, to add to that. This will bring us to item 5, consider an act on the software purchase, licensing agreement, and annual maintenance costs for the following: A, SCADA system and related items, and B, United System of Technology Incorporated and related items.
Mayor Council, item A is the SCADA system. It's necessary to monitor the water pressure and water levels in our tanks, and then as we expand it, it will also help us monitor our lift stations, all of the pumps. We have already begun to replace some of the SCADA software and have run into some issues. Namely, we started on a tank that was not as important. We have our old water superintendent back who's going to help us get started and start making some of the corrections. The loss in water pressure that we experienced about a week and a half ago is because of this software system and related items to it. I wish I could tell you that that's the last time we're going to face some water pressure loss, but I can't tell you that. As we update the system and try to get things ready, and so that we're more reactive instead of, so that we're more proactive instead of reactive, it's going to happen a few more times, unfortunately, until January. The SCADA system should be complete, and we're trying to time it with the elevated water tank completion, which we've had to push back. SCADA is a pretty complicated system, and it's requiring a complete electrical rewire and some circuit boards made specifically for our system. So it's a pretty expensive proposition, and it's a pretty expensive project. Right now, I'm telling you the price is not to exceed $100,000. I believe that's going to cover all 3 tanks, but we may have to come back with some minor adjustments if the electrical and the wiring comes out to be too much.
questions on this?
No,
Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion, we approve the software purchase and licensing agreement and annual maintenance costs for the following SCADA system not to exceed $100,000.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. we just- B.
What do we have for item B?
Item E is, I know Jeff's in the room and he can jump in as much as he wants to. I told you that we were going to be replacing our Encode software to have more functionality in terms of folks being able to pay online, instantly view their bills, our staff having better connectivity, our locations better connected and talking to each other. The current Encode software that we have is very limited, and to do the upgraded Encode is almost twice as expensive as switching a software and a relaunch. We did visit the city of Edna and have done some due diligence in terms of other cities our size and how functional it is for them. This can do about 98% of everything that we needed to do, and its integration is much better than we currently have. And so this was part of the bond project as well, when I told you we were going to try to do better with what we have and try to speak to one another in terms of the departments. So if Jeff has anything to add, please feel free.
It's going to make the data that we have here a lot more accessible. So hopefully reports will improve and things along those lines. It's very stable. I've talked to several other IT guys that are running it, and they all had really nothing bad to say about it. We looked at several different options, and this one really seemed to be the best and luckily the most cost-effective of the other options that we looked at. It is considerably cheaper in maintenance, yearly maintenance costs than Tyler Technologies, which is what we're using right now.
And it's user-friendly, Jeff?
It's much more user-friendly than Encode. Encode is very ancient-looking. It's actually written in a very old programming language, and it's real boxy and really hard to get to what you need to find. The designer of the software package we're looking at actually wrote it in a very, very similar fashion that the Microsoft Office programs are written in. So the cut and paste button looks like the cut and paste button. It's a much more user-friendly product. Also, the technology on the back end is much more robust. It actually uses a real database. Encode uses flat text files that pretend to be a database. It's not good. So this will improve performance considerably and make the data a lot more available. Like I said, make it a lot easier for us to get better reports and custom reports without having to involve Tyler Technologies Encode, call it and ask them for a report. We should write our own.
So the total cost that we're looking at is $61,000? Is that?
Yes, that's the projected go live upfront capital cost.
Mm-hmm.
The annual support cost would be in the 10,359.40 range.
Okay.
That will change based on licenses year to year, but we think that will get us going with all the licenses we need. We may actually have the ability to back off on licenses. We kind of wanted to make sure we had enough at first, but some of the other cities have said that they selected a lot of licenses and then were able to scale back when they realized not as many people were using them concurrently.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were able to save some money on licenses. Hopefully we can do the same thing, but that's already a much smaller number than what we pay yearly for Encode.
We're about 30,000 in the Encode a year.
So, yeah.
what's the time frame? If we approve this, what's the time frame as far as installation or going over to this system?
One of the items on this list is server software, and I would have to get that server software installed, build the servers, and then we would be at the mercy of USTI for when they can do the installation. They don't. I don't think they have a horrible lead time, but you know, it'd be nice to have it by the end of the year. But knowing how things really work in the real world, it's probably going to be beginning of next year.
Is it going to interrupt any of the departments as far as their daily work, daily function on any of our departments?
You know, I'm trying to plan it out so that we don't have those issues.
Okay.
But anytime you're making a huge change like this, it's going to be disruptive, even if it's just in learning something new.
Okay.
One of the things that is going to take some time is modeling our current business practices and applying that model into the software to make sure the software does what we want it to do, not what it wants us to do. So it's very configurable software. We can make it kind of look how we want it to and do what we want it to. So in order to do that, I get to go to each department and find out what all of their business practices are and what the business flow is, and then design, assist for how we are going to use it for the project.
Okay.
It's going to take some time.
We're going to design best practices, not to current practices, I promise you.
Right.
Okay.
We couldn't design it to current practice because it would be a loop.
Right, yeah, this is an opportunity for us to improve our business flow because it actually makes people sit down and think about how they do their daily workflow tasks. And it's a good exercise.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I make a motion that we enter into a contract with United Systems Technology and related items.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to item number 6, consider an act on adjusting disputed water bill counts unusually high due to the meter reader not reading as required.
Mayor and Council, if you'll recall, during the meter changeouts, we had a lot of customers who said their bills were unusually high, and a lot meant about 9 or 10, honestly, once we reviewed all the accounts of who had a broken toilet, who had a water leak, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did was we averaged their bill for 6 months and monitored water usage based on their past 12 months. And these were the customers that the read was not correct for whatever reason. And so we opted to come to council and have that amount, that disputed amount, just corrected and removed from the bill. In essence, giving them a clean start on starting a new, fresh 12 months.
Is there any questions on this item?
No.
I make a motion that we adjust the disputed water bills accounts and just go ahead and start over, a clean slate for these businesses or these customers.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This brings us to item number 7, consider an act on amending the animal control ordinance to include 6 chickens and no roosters inside the city limits of Aransas Pass.
We're going to call this the urban chicken ordinance as opposed to the rural chicken ordinance. We did do some research of the surrounding areas, and there are towns who actually did limit or prohibit chickens and roosters, and so we did a maximum of 6 chickens allowed per household for the eggs and prohibiting roosters within the city limits. Again, I am not a country girl, so I could not even begin to comment on this ordinance other than what similar cities around us are doing.
Okay. Good.
If I could, I would like to open the floor. If anybody has for or against this ordinance right here, if you want to come up and speak up before we take a vote, please come up. Just state your name, where you live, and what your business is. 3 minutes.
James Evans. I live on 841 South 12th Street, and I've got kids, and we do 4-H and stuff like that. And when we order chickens, they bring us, like for one kid, it's 20 chickens to start out with, and you got to weigh them in and stuff like that. But I also have other chickens, and I've got 14 hens and 3 roosters, I believe. And none of my neighbors have ever said one thing about it. So.
That's one of the deals that was brought up to my attention was the 4-H.
Uh-huh.
And other organizations throughout the schools and the counties that they have competitions and have actually do it also.
Yes. And the only reason I knew about it.
Exemption for 4-H. There is an exemption for those types of groups within the ordinance itself. I believe, Amanda, please correct me if I'm wrong, there's a permit or permission that they would have to get, but we did specifically address those groups that are using them, or if the zone is already ag, this doesn't apply to them.
Okay. Only reason I knew about it is because my parents read the paper. I don't read the paper. I'm sorry. But I have 2 other neighbors in the area. They also have them, and I brought that to their attention too, so I don't know if they're here tonight.
What was your address again?
Excuse me?
What was your address again?
841 South 12th Street. It's right off McClung. There's a little dirt road. I don't have anybody in front of me. I don't have anybody beside me. I got right here and behind me, and not one of those have ever said anything about it. They might have gotten their yard. I think they might have said something about that, but the pound has been out there and checked on them. But other than that, nothing.
Is there anybody else that might want to add anything to it?
Mayor, I think what the city manager said a while ago, I think there is already an exemption for school projects, ag projects, those kind of things. But what you might also think about is that this fellow doesn't live around anybody. What you might want to think about is maybe providing for some kind of a distance prohibition. In other words, if you live within a certain distance from another resident, then you're prohibited from having a certain number of chickens.
There is a distance requirement as well. There's a distance requirement in our current ordinance right now, which is why he referenced animal control going out and making a visit and measuring the coops and how far they are from property line to property line. Okay. So we already do that today. The change in the ordinance would be prohibiting roosters and limiting the number of chickens for those folks that are either not ag zoned already or don't have it as part of a legitimate 4-H project.
So I guess on this, Alan, I'm asking, is there a grandfather clause on this also?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Does the exemption also include roosters? Or is that what I hear the city manager saying, that no roosters, period?
Correct.
I'm hearing no roosters, period.
No roosters.
On this part.
Well, for the council to decide. I mean, that's a staff's recommendation based on the last public input. But if the council wants to include in the exemption for ag and 4-H a certain number of roosters, then again, I'm not a country girl. I would not be opposed to any such amendment.
Mr. Evans?
I mean, I can't control when I buy roosters or chickens from like a Tractor Supply.
You can't tell the sex.
You cannot tell. I mean, you'll buy six babies and you'll get 2 hens and 3 roosters, and But I've got hens sitting on eggs right now, but I mean, I wouldn't, if y'all want to come out and like do a sound test or whatever. I mean, if that's what the problem is with the roosters, that's
I think the real issue is the distance issue. Ms. Salinas, when she showed her neighbors are within a lot distance of her, so her neighbors are within 100 feet of her, and those are the roosters that she's hearing, the neighbors that are next to her and across the street from her. I think where this gentleman is at, there's much more open space, so his neighbors probably aren't as affected, but, and he probably would need the open space, not seeing it on the map, I can't really tell you that right now for certain, but, there is already a distance requirement, that's all I can say.
If you go to the Google site,
Okay.
I mean the satellite site, you can see a lot better. There you go. Where's my clone?
You're like right here, sir? It's right here. Well, yeah, one part of it. What's your address again? 841. Right here.
And these people are here have roosters. These people have chickens and roosters, and so do these people are right. Farm friendly neighborhood right there. I mean, if I need to move my coop to the front side of the house, I can do that too. But,
Right now, the current separation distance is 75 feet within, from structure to structure. So if you have, most of the lots in Aransas Pass are 100 to 120 feet deep, and so the separation distances are usually met. But when you get into parts of town where the lot distances are smaller, some of the newer subdivisions that only have 60 or 75 foot lot sizes,
no,
it's going to be an issue. They're going to hear their neighbor's rooster.
yeah, I got 100 to about 150, so I can maneuver it around or whatever to accommodate for that.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Salinas?
For 4-H projects, are they still supposed to be confined or meet all the other requirements?
Yes, they're still supposed to apply for a permit with the city manager, and what we've been doing is our animal control goes out with the permit application, measures the distances, and then presents those permits for me to sign or deny based on the distance.
Okay, I just wondered because I'm actually across the alley from Mr. Evans, and his neighbor is across the chain link fence. And I just was wondering about the 4-H issue. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Come on, Mr. Hill.
I live on 145 West Hazeley, and I got chickens and roosters too, so I was concerned about that.
Okay.
So I would have to get a permit.
I called today to get a permit. They said they couldn't do it today. They'll come out of the house and they'll take pictures
And then fill out the form. Is that correct, ma'am? Okay. Okay.
It's a process that to go out, get all the information on each one of the animals, measure. We're gonna take pictures so we have more documentation, and then we have to bring it, give it to the city manager.
I've got a suggestion.
Yeah.
We are nowhere close to having this thing figured out. We need to table this and go back to the drawing board, and we're gonna be here all night.
That sounds
like
good
a
to me.
couple of banty roosters, and nobody's gonna be happy. So
All
we
right.
just table this thing and rework it.
Sounds good.
We're going nowhere as fast.
So is that a motion there?
Motion to
Yeah,
table?
that's a motion. I motion we table this thing.
second it.
All fair to say aye.
Aye.
To be continued.
chickens, there's gotta be roosters. That's right. Not chickens, you have dumplings.
This brings us to item number 8. Consider an act on the building department items. Wow. All the way from A through Z. I guess we'll start A, appointing members to the Ransom Pass Building Standards Board. So we're gonna do
Mayor
just,
and council, I'm gonna let Michael handle these items. Should be right there next to Eric.
Mayor and council, I hope that you guys have gotten this form that Amanda left for you guys. Basically, in your pack, we had 6 applications for the board. Then we had one come in, and hopefully they also put that at your desk. This lady came in at the 11th hour. Basically, on your sheet is a handwritten list of, we need 5 members out of these 7 people. 2 members are going to be chosen from a realtor, from architects, engineers. We only have 1 engineer who applied, who actually is a resident, so we were kind of limited on the number of those guys. General contractors, home builders, or building materials dealers. We need 2 people that are homeowners, and we need 1 person in the group of commercial business owners. On your list, besides each name, there's basically what their what category they fit in, and the CBO took me a minute to figure out that's Amanda's abbreviation for commercial business owner. I had to think about that one for a minute. That's basically your choice of people who have applied for the Building Standards Board.
so out of the 7, we're just picking 5, correct?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Mayor and council, just to remind you, this board is, when Michael issues a denial or we've got demolition or things, this is the board that's gonna hear it. And the composition is as such, so it's a member of the community and their fellow peers. This board would give relief, through regulation, and or listen to a property owner who has been issued a demolition order but wants more time, wants a reprieve, wants to make repairs. That's why the engineer position is on there, so they can review whether or not that structure is architecturally sound to be able to be repaired.
So if we give these 2?
Basically, we can, Yvonne, do you need to do it for the record? We
can go one at a time.
Yeah.
And we'll
So,
mark it.
I guess we'll start from left to right, and Ms. Brager.
Okay. Mr. Stone, Mr. Stubbs, Mr. Moore, Jen, and Richard.
Raymond Stone, Kevin Stubbs, Mike Moore, Jen Robinowitz, and Sandy Kubiak.
I'm looking at Mr. Stubbs, Kevin Stubbs, Raymond Stone, Richard Kubiak, or Sandy Kubiak, and then Elizabeth Doors, and Jen Robinowitz.
Raymond Stone, Liz Doris, Sandy Kubiak, Michael Moore, and Kevin Stubbs.
Raymond Stone, Kevin Stubbs, Michael Moore, Jen Rabinowitz, Elizabeth Doris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So what'd you come out with? You get that?
Who did you vote for?
I'm looking for Kevin Stubbs, Stone, it's the second one. Jen, huh?
Did you say Sandy?
No, Raymond
Stone.
Stone. And then Sandy also?
So you voted for Stone, Stubbs, Rabunowitz,
Yes. Doors
Doris,
and Sandy, you got her?
and Sandy, okay. And Raymond,
You gonna make me say it again? Raymond Stone,
okay,
Kevin Stubbs,
okay,
Michael Moore, Sandy Kubiak, and Liz Doris.
okay.
Did I say it right?
And let's see if we're in
That's the one.
consensus. The members of the boards that I have would be Raymond Stone, Kevin Stubbs, Michael Moore, Jen Rabinowitz, and Sandy Kubi.
Right.
Is that what you came up with? Don?
I got Raymond Stone, Kevin Stubbs, Michael Moore, Sandy Kubik, and Liz Doris.
Liz, from what I see, only had 3 votes, and Jen had 4. So that would be, Jen would be then the 5th member of the board.
Mike, what are the 5 you have?
The 5 I have are Raymond Stone, Kevin Stubbs, Michael Moore. Those, each one of you voted for. Then I have 4 votes for Jen. I have 4 votes for Sandy, and I only had 3 votes, and those 3 votes are Mayor Chapa, Councilman Gomez, and Councilman Ellis for Elizabeth Doris. So that basically leaves the ones that I mentioned as the 5.
How many have voted for more? 4, 3?
I'm sorry.
How many voted for more?
Okay. Stone, Stubbs, Moore, Rabunowitz, and Kubik.
Yes.
I didn't vote for more.
You did?
No.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I just
Yes, sir.
wanted-
That's correct.
Need a motion.
And make a motion, we approve the people appointed to the boards of adjustment.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to item number B. Awarding the mowing services. How many of those? Sylvia, back online?
Sylvia, am I correct to say that we didn't receive a single bid for mowing?
Really?
That was turned in on time.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, and this is the second time
And
we've
we
advertised.
advertised twice.
And we had, the reason we went and advertised twice, because we had a tremendous amount of individuals that came to City Hall and asked for us to do it again. And then when it came to bid date, we got one that was 2 hours late. And so we're back to square one.
Okay.
So you're gonna put out again, or you're just gonna cut the grass yourselves, or?
We're gonna put it out again, but we're gonna have to review the insurance requirements. That seems to be the sticking point. A lot of the small businesses can't afford the insurance requirement, but unfortunately, that protects the city from any damages or things that they might either incur or force to occur on the property. So it's a win-win. I don't think we ever want to let anybody on somebody's property doing work for us that is not insured.
That's true.
That is very true.
Okay.
So that one's gonna be tabled or gone. This brings us to item C, public hearing on request of La Costa Development LLC to rezone from an R10 single-family dwelling district to a PD plan development within the city of Rents Pass. The property is described as W/2 Track 9, Block 209, Burton, Danforth, SD, 2.5 acres on Track 8, Block 205, Burton and Danforth, SD, 5 acres. The property is currently zoned for R10 single-family dwelling district. Mr. Lawrence?
Thank you, Mayor. I declare, excuse me, I declare a public hearing open for the purposes of taking up the request of La Costa Development Company, LLC, to rezone from R10 Single Family Dwelling District, PD, plan development within the city properties described as set forth under item 8C on the agenda tonight and as stated by the mayor. Is there a representative from La Costa Development Company?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You want to approach, please? Tell us what you have planned.
I'm Neil Amsler. I'm president of La Costa Development. Live in Rockport, Texas on FM 3036. I brought Alex Harris, my partner. With me here tonight is Reinforcements, and Jim LaRoe is a new guy on our team. And what we're looking to do is rezone this 7.5 acres to primarily to get it to a lot size that we can do and offer affordable housing, which is getting not so affordable anymore, unfortunately. But we, on the large lots, we won't have anybody that can afford to buy a new house. So the zoning is down to, that we're asking for, is down to a 6,000-foot lot. I think our smallest is about 6,400. The current zoning is way larger, like 10,000 feet or something. I'm not sure, just way beyond what we can do. So the intent, you see the subdivision, I guess, location she was showing, but she's going ahead and circling where we're going to be. That is right next to a Hogan Homes subdivision, which I was part of years ago, and that worked well for us, and we think this is going to work well for Alex and me. We just need a little help from our friends here, and we'll work with the staff on the details of the engineering and what have you. But I think the primary focus Sylvia wants to do is to get the zoning right. Yes, Mike?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what's before the council tonight is strictly just the rezoning of the property. And then we'll come
Well,
back.
the PD, we're doing a PD because we always look at the overall infrastructure rather than just a rezoning. We have ranges of residential that he could have gone down to, but we wanted to review the overall traffic and circulation pattern and make sure that it matches with what's there, including the drainage, which is probably one of the bigger things in the area.
Any other questions of the council?
I'm excited.
Is there anyone present who is opposed to the request for rezoning? If not, I would point out to the council that Planning and Zoning has previously met and has recommended your approval of the rezoning.
Good deal.
And with that, I declare the public hearing closed.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
This is 34 lots, Neil, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
This brings us to item D, consider an act on a request. Do I hear a motion for approval by anybody?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the rezoning request for La Costa Development Company, LLC.
Second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence, you're up again, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is item 8C, or 8E, excuse me. This is a public hearing to consider the request of La Costa Development Company, LLC, for a partial street right-of-way closure being the east side of South Saunders Street. Property is described as being a replat of Lot 1R, Block 734, Ranches Pass Town Site. Mr. Amsler?
Not sure I can handle twice in one night.
You're doing good.
Thank you. Y'all probably saw what we did when we first started in Aransas Pass down at 10th Street and DeBerry. One of our residents here, Bernard Baker, had bought 3 lots, and we bought those, and we asked the city to turn the lots around 90 degrees to face DeBerry, and we think we're really proud of how all of that looks over there. This is different. We bought the 3 lots, and then we replatted and turned them around, but with an additional 30 feet out of the really wide Saunders right-of-way, we can turn 3 lots into 4. And so what we're proposing to do here is, or asking the city to do, is abandon 30 feet of 120-foot street right-of-way on our side of the street. And that extra 30 feet is like 3 feet wider than we need to have 2 lots instead of 1 big lot on the corner. And makes a difference between whether the city gets $600,000 of new tax base versus $800,000. And I think it just really looks pretty the way we did it before. And so we're asking for that 30 feet to be abandoned by the city so that we can replat the 1 wide lot into 2. So that's the purpose of it.
Have you done a survey of that area yet?
We have surveyed the 3 lots.
But do you have a meets and bounds on the 30 feet you're asking to be abandoned?
Have not done that.
Okay.
The city's going to ask me to do whatever surveying is required. Sylvia's pretty funny about this. We actually didn't pay anything when we did the narrowing of 10th Street, and she says that was past then is now, and it was somebody else, and this is her, and so we're going to end up paying whatever the staff, I guess, requires us to pay for the amount that 30 feet by 165 feet that's going to be abandoned. Again, like the other deal, there are some details to work out with staff. But we need the council to approve the concept.
Sure. Okay. Any questions of the council?
I guess
Well, you would ask, I would ask Neil to pay fair market value for that property, because after all, it is public right of way, and I can't give away anything, and I don't know what my predecessor did about giving away whatever was there before. Neil would be required to do the survey and bring the meets and bounds, and then council, I would recommend a fair market value to council. Council would either approve or deny or meet somewhere in the middle, and then we would move forward. I need you to understand that the right-of-way for DeBerry, the street classification, the right-of-way for Saunders and that street classification is 60 feet. So there is additional, even after this 30 feet, there's still going to be an additional 30 feet of right-of-way. It's just going to be on the other side of the street. So there's ample room for future expansion of that road anyway to its highest and most intense classification.
That answers my question, not even asking it.
Yeah, that was my question.
Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed?
I'm up on y'all. That's a first.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed to the request? If not, again, planning and zoning has previously met on this and has recommended your approval. And I would suggest that you follow the recommendations of the city manager. We're going to need a meets and bounds on the area that's being closed, first of all, so we can do the ordinance. And I would agree with her that there needs to be some discussions concerning reimbursement to the city for essentially giving this property to them. So with that, I declare the public hearing closed.
So bring us to item number F. Considering that the request submitted, should we table this or wait with the speculation?
Well, I would suggest you go ahead and, excuse me, I would suggest you go ahead and approve it subject to
conditions.
Arriving at finalized agreements and whatnot with city staff.
A meets and bounds description will accompany their final plat, which will be approved by you anyway, in terms of the final plat. And we'll bring it as an A and B item. I think Neil just wants to understand that you are in favor of, so he can proceed with that. And then we'll bring you A, meets and bounds and a replat, and B, cost of, or negotiated costs for the street.
Okay.
So approve subject to the items that the city managers just stated.
Somebody would like to make a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion, we approve the request by La Costa Development Company for a partial street right-of-way closure east side of Stonders, along with these stipulations, subject to the stipulations by the city manager.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Those bring us to item G, again, a public hearing, Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah. This is a public hearing on modifications to section 12 off-street parking requirements of the zoning ordinance of the city. Sylvia, you want to address this, or Michael, or somebody?
Sure. Well, council, we had members of planning commission, actually some members of council, who addressed some of the congestion on the street. And our current off-street parking requirement, meaning the number of spaces you have to have on your property, was only one. And so we went through it quite deeply with planning commission. Staff was recommending 2, planning commission recommended 3. I think Michael still came up with a creative requirement or a creative solution for it all, meaning he'll count 2 in the garage and then 2 on the concrete pad in front of the garage, which really gives somebody 4. You know, there has to be an improved surface for them to park the car on, rather than just having, you know, sort of the grassy knoll. You know, we recommended 2, they went to 3, so really this has been a request not just from the council, but P&Z and the community as well, to try to deal with some of the congestion on the streets. I think, Mayor, you and I went through one of these ordinances together as we started talking about Oak Park and some of those areas where there's massive congestion on the streets.
I guess one of the other items I want to bring up too is, I guess it used to be Dr. Skinner's old apartments on the Wheeler. I noticed coming home late from work that there's a lot of vehicles parked on the city right of way. I mean, right off the Wheeler, right there on the right of way. Yeah,
and they jump the curb and they you know, they affect drainage once they break that curb, and it, you know, it'll cause flooding. Unfortunately, they're kind of grandfathered in with our no improved parking surface ordinance. It's you know, half a dozen one and 6 the other way. We can start citing them for parking in the right of way, but then they don't have adequate parking because under the old set of rules, they didn't need to have that many parking spaces. People didn't have that many cars back then. So we're going to cite them in the right of way, and then we'll turn around and cite them for parking on the street, and then we'll all have a bunch of people calling down to City Hall. So I really don't know how to address that. I need to get creative in addressing that. I mean, potentially abandoning that right of way and allowing that to be used for parking is a possibility if it's landscaped and screened properly, so it looks a little better. Right now, I agree, it looks horrible. You know, it gets muddy, it gets pitted, there's no surface, it floods there. I mean, all the way around, it's a bad situation.
On this particular one, what gets me is the pedestrian traffic when they walk. That vehicles are actually blocking going to Walmart or the bowling alley, anybody walking down that side of the road in the evening. And then also to add to that, I know there's some vehicles that are sitting there that are not running or don't have inspections, that are sitting actually in the parking lots, taking up space.
That's an item for the chief to address. You know, I'm just fearful of what's going to happen on the back end, because we're going to push that parking off of Wheeler, and it's going to go onto those side streets, which is going to affect the neighborhood. I mean, and I don't know if you've seen the parking lot for those apartments on Wheeler. The parking lot is horrible. There are very, very, very deep potholes. And because it's private property, there's really not much we can do to force them to improve it, because we don't have a good improved parking ordinance. So, you know, we're willing to do what the council wants us to do. I just want you to be aware of what that ends up doing. It just pushes the problem from a commercial strip down into the residential strip.
Yeah, I know on that particular one, there was a red Jeep that was on the city right away. It wasn't running. We tagged it to be fined or whatever, so they stuck it in the parking lot. So, and it's just been sitting there ever since. Those things are noticed.
It's on private property, though? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
well, it's
where
in the
it would-
parking of the apartments.
There could still be a junk vehicle violation that,
Yeah.
that we can deal with, that we'll redirect code enforcement officer to go deal with.
10-4.
Or look into.
I mean, what are the council's thought on that strip of Wheeler, that apartment complex? I mean, that's something to think about in the future as we start to talk about, you know, when those apartments go to do a remodel or an upgrade, which will be more than 50%, they'll have to come up to the new parking standards. So eventually, they're probably gonna come to us for additional right-of-way for parking anyway. So just food for thought.
Any other questions or comments by the council?
So what this is doing is to restrict the number of vehicles that a resident can have parked? Is that, I want to make sure I understand.
Current stuff is grandfathered. Any new stuff that comes to us for construction, like Neil stuff or any of the other stuff, will have to have a certain number of off-street parking spaces before the plans are approved. And so the number can be met with a double garage and the parking pad in front of the garage, because we're assuming 2 cars can be parked in the garage and 2 cars on the pad. But it's only affecting new stuff. It's not going to affect the existing stuff.
Okay, my question is if you have like a, weekend gas and they come with their vehicle, are they going to be ticketed because they've got more than the cars allowed? Like, for instance, if I have 10 cars parked in my home, am I going to be ticketed because they have that many parked there?
No.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that would be a temporary situation like a party or somebody coming over. What we basically have done is taken the parking requirements and tripled them for the individuals living at the property. When we first looked at this, the parking spaces required for a new house is only 1 off-street parking space. The problem with that is not very many people that build new houses are only going to have 1 vehicle. What we basically are seeing then is we see 1 person in the driveway, 1 person in the yard, 2 people in the street. We just simply don't have enough off-street parking for the people that actually live at that house. So this increases not only the number, but if you also notice at the top, the discussion was the size of the space increased in length to an additional 2 feet. So the actual area that they're going to park in, because it was a great discussion about the fact that a lot of people drive bigger trucks, vehicles like I do. They just really don't fit in a 10 by 20 normal space. So the thought process for planning and zoning was, and it kind of surprised me that, they really want to try to make our best effort to get as many vehicles off the street for the residents of the house, not visitors, because that's the kind of thing that is temporary and it's not all the time.
Okay, so how are we going to monitor how many people live in the home?
That's way more difficult.
I was going to say, we're getting into private that,
Yes.
that doesn't concern the city at all.
Yes, ma'am, that is a sticky wicket, and, we do have some people, when I first came here, we have a few folks around that have a large amount of vehicles that are on the street in different areas. Something we'll have to monitor. It's something we'll have to be very careful about what we're doing.
Because I know my husband and I is just 2, and we have about 5 vehicles there.
Sure.
So,
And again,
I mean, so you're going to,
Like with you, you're existing, you're there, you're grandfathered in, like most of Oak Park. And basically what we're really trying to do is not duplicate Oak Park again in the city.
Basically, if you build a new house, you need to have adequate parking for that house.
At least enough to where we have a minimum, the code's gonna require 3 off-street parking spaces, whether that's a combination of the garage and the landing outside in the driveway to accommodate the houses, or a combination of those things to get at least those 3 parking spaces this side for something new.
okay, so for instance, something new, if you sell your home, is that going to be considered the new owners are going to have to comply to that?
No, it's the house that's existing, it's the structure that's existing,
Okay.
it's not the individuals.
Is it written on here clear for people to understand that? That it's.
That's just the way it works, Vicki.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, just the way it works up sometimes, it's a little.
Yes.
Kind of gets lost sometimes.
And something that was just brought up to me, now, it's true, if you do trip the trigger for any structure, if you spend more than 50% of what the appraisal district's value of that house, then you would have to accommodate the new codes.
Right.
And that's true for any structure, commercial or residential, that if you go over that value amount, or if that structure is existing non-conforming, if you try to expand it, do an addition, do anything like that, then that turns into play where we have to start talking about meeting the current building codes and thus the parking requirements.
And I think the other thing, if I understand correctly too, Michael, is that we're not creating an offense per se. We're just saying new structures have to conform to this.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go out writing people tickets.
This change to the parking ordinance it doesn't have an avenue for citation and that kind of thing. It's simply a review process that when it comes through plan review in the building department for a new structure, or again an extensive remodel to an existing home, that this is something that, just like the building codes, we make sure there's enough smoke detectors in the house, we make sure there's proper window sizes in the bedrooms, all that kind of thing that we're looking at in plan review to make sure that it complies.
Yes, sir.
Council, my name's Hal Jones, and I'm a developer, and you're talking about sticky wicket on stuff. And, oh, by the way, my address is 2422 Highway 361, Harbor Island. Just moved in. But you got to be careful what y'all are doing here, because if you say it has to have 3 spaces, affordable housing, like what they're doing, and things like that, I mean, it's a cost to park 3 cars, that everybody's going to have 3 cars. You back yourself into an ordinance like this, you're really boxing yourself in. There's a lot of people that they want a lock and leave, a little townhouse product, and they want 2 spots, and they're in the garage, and that's it, and there's not enough runway. I saw you changed it from 10 by 20 to 10 by 22. Well, you know, if you have to have 3 spots, that, you know, some things aren't designed like that. I build a lot of product I'm doing one in Rockport right now called Coral Reef, and it's built up on stilts, and you can park 4 cars underneath, and it works out great. But if you did that slab on grade, you wouldn't be able to have that luxury. So I'm just saying, when you're working about affordable housing, townhouses, condos, things like that, condos, you get 2 spots, and those spots are gold. I mean, they are assigned parking spots. So you can't do a high-rise and say everybody has to have 3 spots. So I know we're talking about single family, but I have single family product right now that 2 spots are all they have. So be careful boxing yourself in that everything has to be 3 spots, because a lot of times it doesn't work.
Staff's recommendation was 2 spots.
I go with staff's recommendation.
National and state standard, 2 spots per housing dwelling unit. Planning Commission asked for 3 spots.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else in the audience have any comments? Council have anything further?
I just got a question. JP,
Yes, sir.
can you come up so we can hear?
I just got a question. The location on Wheeler that you all were talking about, the apartments, I couldn't place exactly where that
Right where
was.
that Goodwill Trader's at, a little.
Next door to the Red Animal.
Way down there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right across from AEP.
Yes.
Okay.
Right in the
Where
corner of
the Palm
Gillespie.
Apartments are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I was just curious, my name James, 145, but if you have a family of 6, and they're all living at home, and each one drives a vehicle, how would that pan out in that?
Just don't move and don't do any improvements.
Good question, Ben.
You know, I don't think they're just saying that the new construction has to be built to that standard. There's and I've never heard of an ordinance saying that, James Hill, I'm sorry, you can't have 6 vehicles and park them along the street. There's no offense against that, and I would hope that we would not establish one.
No, I can't see it.
All right. With that, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and as I understand it from Sylvia, staff has recommended 2 and P and Z 3, so.
That's correct, and every municipality has an on-street and off-street parking requirement. Ours just happens to be 1. Staff thought we'd be recommending 2. Again, we came back with 3, so anywhere in the middle.
All right.
2.5.
Then I declare the public hearing closed.
That brings us to item H, considering that the modifications. Do I hear a motion for approval of 2? Anybody? Or whatever the council desires.
Figure this one out here.
Okay, so what we're talking about is whenever you're gonna go pull a permit to build a new house, you have to have a minimum of 2 car spaces? That's what this is all about, right? As far as a residential thing?
As a residential.
All right.
Which includes the garage.
2, 2.5, or 3.
Say 2.
I'll go 2. I'll go 2 3/4.
Hope you can share with your neighbor.
How do we do this?
Well, I make a motion that we approve the modifications to Section 12 of the MZO Ordinance 1308 to 2 parking spaces.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 This brings us to item number 9, considering that the police department items, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H,
Oh,
and
my
I.
God.
Eric, you're up.
JK.
Can't you just carry it all at once?
I'll go through them brief, then if I guess there's any questions that we need to recap on, we can talk about. The first one here on A is modifying the speed limit Harbor Island Road. Right now, the speed limit on that new roadway that Martin Midstream put in right there is by city default 30 miles an hour. The recommendation was that we actually make it 35 miles an hour and put up signage that reflects that right there. On B, the cell phone ordinance, and on C, camping ordinance, and on D, discharging a firearm restriction ordinance. We wanted to put up signage as a courtesy, informing people that are using our flatlands and that these are a violation of city ordinance. And the cell phone one, we put up the signage already around town. In the beginning, TxDOT was okay putting up signage along the highway without any question asked. Now we have been asked by TxDOT to have a ruling actually put into the ordinance from the council saying that we have to have that signage. So we revised the ordinances so that they would reflect that signage language, which would allow TxDOT to say, give us the blessing that we can continue. The E, talking about the taxi cab ordinance, there are specific sections in there that there are slight modifications that are made to. Officer Brake was the one that made these modifications to the ordinance. He has been working with our 2 local taxi cab companies. Most of the problems that we're seeing are problems from outside companies coming in and not following our rules, but taking advantage of the clientele or customers here in this community, which is taking away from our local businesses. The way the ordinance is currently written has an impact on those outside taxi cab companies just as much as it has authority over our local ones. And these amendments and everything are kind of cleaning up some of the language so it's a little bit easier to understand. I wish I had those all dragged out for you so I could go over them, but they weren't included in the packet. Were they included in y'all's packet?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yvonne? The actual ordinances and stuff like that weren't included in the
No.
packets?
30-22, 30-25?
Yes.
Yeah, they're here.
Where you can see the actual changes?
No.
No,
No.
No, it's just capital.
No, the ordinances are not here.
Okay. Well, okay. Into what? Okay, let me see if I can find those. Because I want to be specific with the I don't know where the, hey Jeff, if you're monitoring, we need to get in here. It's in Pelican.
If you go under shared H,
Yeah,
City Hall, Yvonne,
It doesn't show me City Hall.
Are you logged in as you?
I'm logged in as support.
Oh, let me text you my login.
Jeff, I think, is coming. He can. How do I get? We got to get in the shared drive. I can't do that. It's restricting me real quick. This is our IT lesson for today.
Can you tell us what it is, just in a nutshell?
I don't want to guess. No, I can't. I had a lot of stuff that I put together for you, and I was hoping it was here, and I took on some added tasks tonight, so I didn't even bring the information with me. I'm sorry about that.
Can we table this one?
I would not mind doing that if you want to table it.
Okay. Why don't we just table number, E?
Yeah, for the
Table
taxi
E.
cab.
I make a motion, we table E.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and on F, a while back, you guys had approved our driving training to where we use the park. Same setup this time. We want to use that location again for training, and we have no conflicts as of right now. Again, I don't have the supporting data. It wasn't attached with this, but it was going to be, it's an all-day
Similar, the
event
same
again,
thing?
the
Okay.
same way. Our T-Cole training contract, this is just our contract renewal with the state for Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Licensing. They have approved us for an extension on that contract for another 3 years. Basically, we pay for it. It's, I think, $1,000 out of the budget every year, and it is a budgeted expense, and it allows us to host good training and submit our own training hours with certification to the state. The surplus property master list, we've attached that here. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to see that. That's what you asked for last week, so we got you that list finally this week. And if you approve it, we'll be able to go ahead with the auction. And I think you
Is this the
approved that
online
last time.
auction right here?
This would be the online, yes, sir. And then I is a contract with Police One. PoliceOne.com is a website, a lot of police-related material and information. They also provide some online training. It's a supplement. It would never take the place of training, but it covers some of the mundane topics like biohazard training, or washing your hands, or cleanliness, and some of the things that are kind of unique, but federal and state law require we have training on some of these bizarre topics. They cover those bizarre topics, so it makes it easier for us not having to expend time and money seeking that training elsewhere. The cost of this training is, the first time cost, I believe, was around $1,800, and then it's at a renewed rate of about $1,300. That's within training budget as well. So, and those are all that I have for you.
Eric, are you saying that there are, or that ordinances have been prepared for items B, C, and D?
B, C, and D, yes. And the only language that's added in those is an instruction to erect signage. For example, on the cell phone, it's erecting signage at entry points into the city. That's being given as a mandate.
Alan, it's two different, not the ordinance itself. He's talking about the legislative version of the code that he wanted the council to see, the strike through and the underline of the code. It's not the actual ordinance that you or Yvonne would prepare.
Okay, well, that was my question.
Yeah, no, that's on the taxi cab one. It's actually showing you the differences, so you know where it was and what we're requesting the council allow to be modified to. But as far as the signage one, it's just, like I said, the cell phone at all entry points. It says that there needs to be signage, and it also has a statement in there saying that in the absence of signage, the enforcement authority still exists. So you can't say, well, the sign was missing at this one area, so therefore you can't enforce it. doesn't require it, but it's giving a mandate that we have signage or make an effort to put it up. On the camping ordinance as well, the signage would only be along the flats. And I believe also on Beasley, which is discharge of a firearm, same thing. Along Beasley in that area where we have a lot of problems with shooting, there will be signage along that roadway, and then again along Highway 361. The language again says we're mandating that we have the signage up, but it's not required to enforce the violation of the ordinance. If you'd like to table those, which I think would be a great idea, we'll bring them back to you next time. That way you're seeing the actual language.
Right.
So on these items here, what will be the favor of the council?
Well, I'd ask that you table items B, C, and D.
I'll make a motion, we table B, C, and D then.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And on item H, if you would declare the items listed as surplus property, and then authorize auction of those items.
All right.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion that we, on A, modifying the speed limit to 35, of F, of G, of H, with authorizing the list to be auctioned, the list that was provided to us, and I.
Second.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good job.
Good deal.
Thank you. And I'll be better prepared next time.
Please.
My apologies.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to item 10, our city manager updates. Sylvia, you're up.
Take the mute off.
I was saying,
We have a couple of items, and I'm gonna, Johnny should be in the audience right now to give you engineering updates. There's also a financial update. You should have financial records in front of you, and we'll touch on those briefly.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Johnny Morales, representing LMB Engineering. Going to give you a few updates on some projects that are ongoing that we're doing here for the city of Aransas Pass. Beginning with the water line on FM 2725. Design is about 95% complete. We're looking at actually receiving bids on the project in mid to late October. It's a pretty significant project for as far as the extension of the city's water system. The water line project along FM 1069, design is 100% complete. The plan specifications have already been turned over to Grant Works, and they are in contact with the state, seeing about clearing the environmental assessment, to making sure that we meet all the grant requirements and moving forward. The small section of water line improvements along FM 1069 in front of the cemetery, which is being done through city resources, is nearly done. We expect construction to be complete by the end of this week, weather permitting. Unfortunately, we're expecting a little wet weather tomorrow, the next couple of days. That may roll us a little bit into next week. Matlock Street water line, all of the line work is essentially done. You can still see where they just finished the crossing of Wheeler Avenue. The installation of some of the fire hydrants is still lacking. The contractor is meeting with staff this week to determine the exact location of the remaining fire hydrants and get those put in. So there again, we should see completion of the entire project about mid-October, early to mid-October, just under the wire to meet all the grant requirements. Last but not least, we're looking at some significant improvements along Highland, Beasley, and Johnson Avenues. The general scope of these projects is going to extend the city's wastewater system, as well as the water system, and improve drainage and do some pavement improvements along those corridors. We're starting to see new development taking place in that area. So these projects are an attempt to establish the city infrastructure necessary to support the new development. This project is just getting off the ground. Preliminary estimates have been done. We're meeting with staff Thursday of this week, and we're going to fine-tune the project scopes and then get up and running on the detailed design and knock that out as quick as we can for y'all. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them at this point in time.
Is there any magical time frame that you'd set for Highland, Beasley, and Johnson?
Considering the general scope of the projects,
October of next year?
Let's see. Design should be complete or near complete by early 2015. So, and there again, I'm making promises I hope we can keep.
Or just kind of like a general, I mean, I don't want it to be.
First half
just,
of 2015.
Okay.
Should be by I would say June timeframe 2015.
So we should be complete with those projects by then?
Oh, we should be going out for bids.
Okay. So we're looking 2016?
Yes, ma'am. I would say that's a fair time estimate. These are pretty significant projects. We're looking at extension and upgrading of all the utility systems. There's going to be a fair amount of work involved, so maybe some new lift stations, gravity sewer lines, trunk lines,
okay,
and tying up all the water and so forth. As we visit with staff later this week, we will review the timeline and see if there is a need to pursue an accelerated time frame to better coordinate with the new development.
okay.
And if the need is there, we'll see what needs to be done to complete an accelerated time frame.
Okay.
So until we meet with staff later this week, there are a lot of unknowns at this point in time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Comrade Harbor bulkhead. I believe Pat's in the audience. He can add any additional information. We have been going back and forth with the state, and I think have finally come up with a design that meets the intent, meets the timeline, meets Redfish Phase, all within budget. The city is having to absorb the prior engineering fees that were paid to our prior firm. I believe that's about $38,000 we're having to absorb and repay our engineering fees. But Pat, can you chime in on the expected completion date of the bulkhead project?
Yes, I'm Pat Vedito with RVE. We think we'll have the design done before the end of the year. Bid it, and takes about a month to bid and a month to award, so probably before next summer begins, before the season begins up there.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat. We also have National Night Out that we're going to partner with the police department. That was the information I sent you earlier about having a dive-in movie at the Aquatic Center as part of National Night Out, serving hot dogs, etc., making it a pretty big affair. We're going to be coming to the council on the 6th of October asking that the fees be waived for the residents to attend National Night Out. This year, we've also kept the Aquatic Center open longer. We're going to open later into March, and we're going to stay open longer. And our closeout is going to be Halloween at the Aquatic Center, so we're going to do some type of movie dress-up thing at the Aquatic Center. This coming Saturday, we'll have our first ever boat-in movie, which is a movie down at the harbor at the city dock. Again, we're going to be showing a movie on the big screen. It's going to be Goldie Hawn's movie Overboard, I think is the name of the movie.
That's a typical movie.
And lastly, our Citizens Academy started last Tuesday. We had 30 people who signed up, 30 people who confirmed, 30 people who actually said they were coming. We actually had 9 people who attended. So not as well attended as I would like, but I have had people tell me that they're only going to attend the sessions that they think are important. They asked a lot of good questions. We provided a lot of information. It was live streamed, so anybody who wants to watch it can still watch it. It's recorded out there.
Sylvia, it was brought up to my attention that a lot of people didn't know about the academy, that date, until 5 minutes before the actual meeting. So I don't know.
We posted it in the paper, Facebook, Twitter, the app. I mean, I don't know any other way we could have advertised the time and the place.
10-4. I'm just letting you know. Then also a question I have about the Combron Harbor, when are we actually gonna start doing the concrete work? Mr. Fox?
We're finalizing some information on their contract. I think Alan released the contract maybe last week. He's waiting for me to add some final information specific to the work, and then we're really ready to release that contract.
Then another question I have is, I know we have a house that's about to be demolished off of commercial right next to Angel's Bakery that's now overgrown with grass, and what are we looking at timeline demolishing that piece of property?
I'd have to refer that to Michael. I know it has the D painted on it.
Next
so
Tuesday?
That means it's imminent.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Good deal. And then another thing I would like to bring up is, I guess since we're doing Halloween at the Aquatic Center, is there any way we can do as a community, maybe a trunk or treat for all the kids, so where the parents can get together and open the doors of their cars and people can actually have trick or treating in a secure area, like done at some of the schools in Pryor. Something to think about.
That sounds like a good idea. We'll come back to you to get more information on that. I've never heard of that, but that sounds like a great idea.
If not at the Aquatic Center, maybe at the Civic Center.
Okay. The other thing is I'll go into the financial update. Donna is on medical leave for the next couple of weeks. You should have your financial statements in front of you. There's a couple of notes I need to point out. Number one, we're ending the year very well. That's, expenditures have come in lower than anticipated all the way across the board. Under income, we did have some odd donations that were put in. If you recall, we consolidated a lot of accounts and eliminated some of the accounts, and so now there are very small items that we have a question and a limitation with our current software system on where we're going to put the money. The other income is large because that's the pilot, that's the payment from the water sewer fund into the general fund. If you recall, there's always a payment from the water sewer fund to help sustain the general fund. Under municipal court expenditures, Linebarger fees were expensed. Donna just cleaned that up. It was an adjustment to the balance to give the court credit for expenses that should not have been incurred from Linebarger. And then under water, sewer, and public works, we did restructure the funds, and some of that is bond money, some of that is expenses that were already approved under the bond sale. And so, as we move closer to the end of the year and get ready for the audit, some of those funds will be moved back to the correct accounts where they stand. But we're doing well. Money's coming in the way it's supposed to. Money's leaving a lot faster, a lot slower than you'd want it to see. So I think staff's done a great job of keeping expenses down.
Well, that's our city manager updates. And let's bring us to our.
I'm sorry, I muted my microphone. I'm sorry, because there's kickback. I have to keep muting after I stop talking. The chief has police department updates and he wants to touch on.
Okay, you got the list there. I'll be quick for you. Total calls 1,910 in August. Of course, you got 508 traffic tickets, 185 violations, 13 crash reports, 71 arrests, 2 juveniles, 24 code enforcement. Our highlights: we participated in the impaired driving mobilization campaign. We had 29 events related to that, and we ended up, I think, having only 1 arrest for DWI and those participating during that event. Drug search warrants on the 15th. We did 2, which you recall hearing 326 North 11th. That location that had a lot of dope that we recovered, huge amount of dope. We've since filed seizure on the residence, and we've seized control of that residence. And we are waiting for disposition from the court. If we get our way with that residence, we will demolish it. Back to school info. We put out just a release. We did experience some issues with parking, which were addressed through an informational and stuff like that. we continue with our rest for the month, and we're also highlighting thieves again because we're still dealing with issues with thieves. No other updates for August.
Thank you, Eric.
That brings us to item number 11, our citizen comments. 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address and your business.
Homer Robertson. I have property out here on West Young, and since I can't put a septic tank, I have 12 acres, 10 lots, each one over 1 acre that, when they were subdivided, was legal by state and county for well and septic. But since we can't put a well or septic on these, y'all have more or less condemned my property. And I've got, with the emails and all, I've got the taxes down 25%, but I can't do anything with the property, is what it comes down to. And I've had 3 contracts. They've contacted Mike and Sylvia, and really can't do anything with it. And that's my problem. Can't even store my boat trailers on.
With him, he's got to enter into development agreements. I mean, the city can't bear the cost of that entire extension. That's what has been explained. There is a development agreement option for him.
$150,000. Who's going to buy a lot for 2.5 acres for $150,000? That's, that's the problem. And all that property out there is condemned, more or less, because they can't put trailers, in which I understand that part. But the water well and a septic tank, when you own 12 acres, you can't even store your boat trailer on it. Right, Mike? No open storage. Right. Can't put power out there to work on your trailer during daylight and take it home. So that's
a primary and accessory use discussion. Again, that's a land use discussion. No accessory use without a primary use. Those are not zoned ag. Now, I don't know what our past discussion's been on the streets because I have a lot of people. Mr. Ellis was in the office when we had another person who had bought that type of property who, again, when it was subdivided, the city did not require those extensions. This is not a new ordinance. I keep telling you guys, this is 1959.
Yes, but when it was,
I don't know when he subdivided it, but
a little over 10 years ago.
Through the regulations, and it's a cost sharing. The city can't do it all.
Well, at the time, I understand that the city council said that's why they were subdivided above 1 acre, because county and state law was that's the smallest you could have, so you could put a septic and water tank or water well. And that's all the property out there. I don't know, 300 acres, 400 acres of the inside city limits. And no services have ever been given to us since they enlarged the city limits. And that's what what do you do with the property? With my emails, I did get the taxes reduced 25%. But
still, you're sitting on the property with nothing.
Yeah. And I had 2 contracts that I had to give money back because they couldn't build a nice house on 2.5 acres. And that was tax money for y'all and some money for me, don't get me wrong.
No, I understand that.
But how do you...
Is there a street out there?
What does the road look like to those properties?
It's blacktop, and it was blacktop by the county, not the city. West Young.
West Young.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else?
I'm James Redmond. I reside at 701 South Lamont. And on the right-of-way on Saunders, I have no objection of them taking 30 feet, to make it. But my concern is that 7th Street has been blocked off. And there's a subdivision back in that cul-de-sac. And I'm wondering, are they going to open 7th Street eventually? Because if they had a fire back there, something as close as those houses are, and you're trying to get vehicles and people out there, I really think, to me, it's kind of like a mousetrap, one way in, one way out. And I think it would be better if they would eventually open 7th to have another exit, because you're shutting things down, and realistically, you always don't stay on the road. You know, you go around and stuff to get out. And listening to this tonight, that was my only concern. That's all. Thank you. Yeah, DeBerry and 7th, and I understand they had people driving through there and they didn't want, but I was just wondering in the future, you know, I was hoping the city doesn't plan on just closing that completely, because I say there's only one way in and one way out, and as you build more residences each side and stuff, you're kind of boxing yourself in there.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything?
Good evening, everybody. I live at 1232 Goodnight Street. I'm a citizen of Aransas, Texas. My main concern, I don't know if I can say anything about this, but I know I read in the paper a while back about a problem with the dogs, and I was trying to realize, and maybe I could bring it up here tonight, that we're having problems in the night with the dogs. Sure, in the day you can see them, but in the night you can't see them. They go into your yard and then just go and make a lot of messes in there, whatever you have outside, or even the chairs, and they knock them down, because there's not only one dog but a lot of dogs. And my main concern right now is that my grandson was bitten by a big dog at Keyburger School, okay? My main concern is the children, because the children go to school there. And I believe that, you know, they need protection, especially from dogs, because they can bite anybody, like they bit my grandson 2 or 3 days ago, and he looks pretty bad. But that's my concern. That's what I wanted to bring to everyone here, to protect our children from these dogs. And, well, I know there's a dog catcher probably in the daytime, but we need a dog catcher, I believe, at night, because I tell you, I don't know how you're going to see them, but I'm sure that you can, because they're out in the streets. I don't know, I guess somebody lets them out at night, keeps them tied up in the day and lets them out at night. I don't know, but I just thought I'd bring this up. And thank you for letting me speak up. I don't know if I was supposed to say this at this meeting or what, but, you know, my main concern is right now is because of the children that go to school. My grandson was bitten in the daytime while he was walking through that road in Keyburger. Sir?
What's your name, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry, Anita A. Martinez.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We can look into that with animal control. We got 2 of them, so I can look at maybe trying to split up shifts or something like that. I know some of the other cities where the police department deals with animal control, they also have it to where when we got a big problem going on, the officers can go get the lanyards and animal control truck or whatever and deal with the problem. So we can look into some of those. We're still transitioning into that.
Good deal. Mr. Brummett.
My name is Donald Brummett. I live in 902 South Rife. The man is right. The county did blacktop Saunders, but the city paid for it.
Yeah.
And I have a suggestion on the citizens' comments. Put it before the council starts. And a lot of people, I think you'll have a little bit more say-so. You know, I'd have rather went before they raised all the water rates and stuff like that before y'all passed it.
10-4.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Brummett.
My name is Carol Salinas. I'm a resident of Aransas Pass, and I'm going to second what Mr. Brummett said. I brought that up a couple of years ago, a long time ago, that it would be nice if you knew the citizens' opinion before you made your decisions. And if we get the agenda, we see what you're going to be talking about, we could get up prior to your discussions. You'd have an idea. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything?
My name is Steve Warren, 617 North Houston. I just wanted to give an update on what's going on. I have filed the legal complaints with the courts, but they said that I had to know my neighbors' names I don't know him. I called Amanda, and she gave me a name, one that she said she thought, but she wasn't sure. She talked to animal control, but she wasn't sure that was the renter's name or not. And I'm still looking for that name, but I haven't gotten anything from them yet.
What's the complaint, sir, that you're
Loose dogs.
Loose dogs?
Loose dogs and noisy and aggressive dogs.
Okay. It's my opinion that you should not be the one having to go get that information. If you get with me here in a little bit, I'll make arrangements with staff so we can identify the people.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? If not, then I'll say the comments are closed. We're going to recess the open meeting and return to executive session pursuant to Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code, Item A, 551.0072, deliberations regarding Combron Harbor and development. Thank you. You have a good evening. You feel I leave right now.